Good morning, everybody, and happy Motivation Monday. I hope everybody had a great weekend and a really great sales week last week. I'll say, taking a look at the numbers, we did pretty dang awesome. So I have a feeling this week is going to get better and better as we're starting to approach the big, huge open enrollment that's coming up. So today we're going to be talking about setting appointments and having people actually show up to those appointments, since that's a huge part of our business. So I thought we'd start out with kind of not as much a motivation quote, but just kind of a common sense quote. So your mission, again, break down your prospect's resistance to an appointment by challenging them to think differently about their problems and priorities. That's a big thing with setting appointments, is what are your clients' priorities and how can you make them think different and actually think about it more? It's something that we're going to talk about today. So let's jump into this here. So happy Motivation Monday. For those of you that are new on the call, and I do see that we have a few on here now, this is kind of the layout that we follow through. We start with a big tip of the week, and then we're going to be taking a look at the sales trends that are going on. We'll take a look at the leaderboard, and then we're going to end with the sales technique, which is kind of giving us some ideas on how to make clients show up for appointments there for open enrollment. So Motivation Monday, our goal here is to get a big, quick 20, 30 minutes out for you, get you kind of riled up, and then we will go on the phones and then sell some insurance. So to review the tip of last week when you guys talked with Tammy, as far as that one goes, is it's about Security Life and the upcoming training that's going to be happening on the 28th, which is in 2 days. If you have not signed up for it, I highly recommend it. Go to the training area of ahcpsales.com and you will see the Security Life training. Just click on it. It'll ask you to register and it will get you out a link for that. So Security Life is a really great company that we've been working with for quite some time, and they also have some really great vision plans that are available. So sign up for that training. It'll be a good 30 minutes of your life there. This week's tip of the week is kind of what's been going on with the Nat Gen products, which those are the old NHIC and TIC products combined. So we know as of last week, or actually the week before Quote Nat Gen came out, they combined all those products into one. One thing that I wanted to do for the tip this week that I've gotten a few questions on is that for the supplemental coverage, as far as it goes for those time insurance company, which used to be called Assurant products, everything is now a yes or no in the system. Some people were avoiding those, I know, because of the underwriting, but it actually changed everything into just yes or no. If your client answers the question wrong, the system will actually prompt you to remove the item from the cart. So the nice thing is it's a little less thinking for you. You can just go on, you can add these ancillary products, which is really important to add right now, especially with the growing deductibles there in the health insurance market. So this is extra protection for your client, and it's a way for you to add more products, make sure that you're making the money that you need without having to think as hard. So this week's is yes or no. And just to let you know, Quote Nat Gen, everything switched over today for those NHIC and time insurance company products. So if you are having any issues or having any questions, contact training at ahcpsales.com and we'll make sure to walk you through that. So taking a look at the AHCP sales trends, major medical was extremely steady last week, really leading with that golden rule, medical off exchange. We had a huge increase. I'd probably say about 20% increase in short-term medical. The big one was that Nat Gen. So, you know, with the new Quote Nat Gen system, it seems like agents are able to run through it a little easier with the system, so able to increase our production, which is great. I'll tell you, I'm expecting a lot of increased production here in the next month. We're hitting October coming up this week. Kind of mind-blowing. Today is the 26th. So with that happening, we know open enrollment starts November 1st. We're going to be getting really busy. So expect these numbers to go up. We had a steady sales as far as it goes with accident policies. Those are with the Nat Gen, the NHIC AXI there. Big thing with that, make sure that you are attaching those accident policies. They're one of the most used ancillary products out there when clients go. A large majority of claims are accident-based, so make sure to add these onto your policies if you are not doing so right now. We had a large increase in critical illness there with I just say CBL, so Colorado's Bankers Life there. So CBL, we had a great increase in that. And as well in dental, we had a large increase in dental. I will tell you from when we first started talking about dental, I believe we started that in February, our sales numbers have consistently increased. Again, this is one of those products that you want to attach on every sale. Why? It increases retention. So if you're not attaching dental currently, make sure to do it. It's the product your client's going to use right away. So just helps with your retention. It's a really easy thing to do to just start increasing sales. So those are the trends. Again, I would expect everything to start increasing, and just volume itself statistically in the past has increased because of open enrollment and what's going to go on with that. So we're going to take a look at our top producers right away, and we're going to give them a big shout out. So we have Brian Jarvitz. As far as it goes, he got the gold for short-term medical. He absolutely knocked it out of the park. He's just killing it in every way, shape, or form. It's actually his third week in a row leading as far as it goes with short-term, and it was mainly NHIC. We have Jacob Gordon as well, took silver there for the short-term sales, and his was actually golden roll. So they're pretty much equal as far as it goes. Brian always beats Jacob just by a little bit there, so keep that in mind. And Katina Santa Maria there in bronze for NHIC short term. As far as it goes with our ancillary products, we have Brian Jarvitz again, just great with his CBL, really is great on selling the critical illness and then the Trio Med as well. And the one thing that Brian is really good at is he adds a ton of dental on all of his sales. So good job, Brian, as usual. Christopher Helgerson there with the Trio Med as well, took silver in the ancillary line, and then David Taxler in bronze with the CBL, so the critical illness policies there. Coming up, starting November, we will be doing the sales shoutouts as well for those major medical sales. So basically, hey, who can pump out the most numbers? Since we know with major medical, that's kind of the game. Who can shoot the most fish in the barrel, the quickest, the most efficient, with the most morals? So kudos to everybody with these sales shoutouts. You're doing really great. So this week's sales technique, and we'll try to get through it kind of quick for you guys to make sure that we are going to get this as packed as possible for you, is going to be taking a look at appointment setting. This is huge. So what kind of gave the idea? I was at an agent conference a few weeks ago, and I was talking to an agent that sells primarily accident and health. And one of them was talking about his first open enrollment a few years ago. He told me that his first few days, he packed and absolutely filled his calendar with appointments, and he was consistently no-showed. With open enrollment coming up, it's really important that if we are setting appointments for the first few days, which I know we do because we are getting those calls right now, when we contact people saying, hey, I'm actually shopping for next year, and we set those calls at the beginning of November, it's really important that they show up. It's a waste of our time if they don't, and it's actually, we're losing money because that was time that we could spend actually helping a customer who needs it. So the biggest thing that we want to talk about is, so if we are starting to set appointments out almost a month out, and I will tell you, agents are really filling up their calendar right now, how can we guarantee that they're going to show up? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the reason why we need to be effective is it takes so much effort currently to set an appointment. So if we're taking a look at, hey, we're going to be selling short term, primarily coming up here, and even into open enrollment a lot, we want these people to actually show up. So we'll take a look at first what effort is needed to create one sale. And this is the absolute ideal perfect world. To get one sale, statistically it says it takes about 2 pitches. Really good agents can close about every other pitch, not on the first call all the time. Most people say the first call closes about 13%. So we'll say for one sale, it takes 2 pitches. To get 2 pitches, it takes 5 appointments set. Okay, so think about that. You have about a 50% show rate there with the 2 pitches, a little under, about 40 there. And out of those, half closed. So to get one sale, it's taking 5 appointments. And in an absolute ideal world, it takes 50 calls, saying 1 out of every 10 calls you can set appointments. Statistically, it says if you're making 10 calls, you're going to probably talk to 2 people. So about a 20% talk there. On those calls, about every other person will set an appointment. Out of every other appointment, a person will show. Out of every other one of those, it takes 1 sale. So if your goal is to make 2 sales a day, it means you're going to be making 100 calls a day. If you can tweak the middle numbers, because we talked a lot about, hey, how can you effectively make calls? How can we effectively do a pitch? How can we effectively close? If we can increase the middle numbers, so really the appointments to the pitches, that's going to make a world of difference, and that's going to take less calls to make 1 sale. Less calls means, hey, when we get our leads, we can work them more effectively. So as we go through this, about 10 minutes here, if you can walk away with at least one trick, this is worth a lot of time in your life. It's going to make your life just a ton easier. So we're going to be focusing on those 5 appointments. So I kind of divided these into 4 fun categories for us. So the first one to think about is really increasing contacts. It's said that only 2% of cold calls, keep in mind this is cold calls here, result in an appointment. 2%, meaning that is a ton of calls and a ton of leads to get the job done. So small things can make a huge impact on both your expenses and buying leads, but also your commission in the long run. This is why we talk a lot about how to develop your personal brand and how to get those more organic leads. So the first thing I'd highly recommend just on the front end, this kind of goofy, is call on off hours. So it's saying that the worst times statistically to call are 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if you are one of those agents who, guess what, you get up, you get your cup of coffee, and maybe you'll get around to calling eventually after you do breakfast, it may not be the best time. 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock are the worst. It says try people before 10 a.m. and after 4. I'll tell you statistically, my best selling time was always 10 a.m. Between 10 a.m. to up to 11 o'clock, no one was allowed to bug me. That is when I had my nose to the grind. So that is one of the first ones right away, is call on the off hours. That's a big one. Also, when calling on the off hours, we're going to get to it in a second, but you have to also call when you figure out that other people aren't there. If your calls keep getting blocked, those off hours could be really good because you could be getting a hold of the person who you're talking to, especially if you're one of those people who looks at doing, maybe a little bit of like the small group and you keep getting blocked by the gatekeeper. Try off hours. So one of the agents I was talking to says his best times are between 8 and 4 and then about 7 o'clock at night. So that is just one to take away. Another thing, right away when you get on the phone, you have to let them know how you helped others. So if you don't, you're kind of wasting your time there. So your first goal is always to help the customer. The prospect will instantly resist setting an appointment right away if they think that the calls that you're in it for yourself. If they think, hey, you're only calling me because you want to make money, they're not going to talk to you. So right up front, in the first seconds of your very first contact, you must exude service, not selfishness. It's an old sales phrase, exude service, not selfishness. And that's especially important because you even open your mouth, the prospect is already in defensive mental mode right away. Second you start talking, they're in defense. Your job right away is say, hey, I'm here to help. That's going to get their guard down. Instead of saying, hey, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to sell you right now. Your client's going to run and never show up to the appointment. One thing you find out too, depending on what area you work with, I used to sell just a ton in the Midwest. They would set appointments left and right because they're nice. You get kind of that polite attitude. No, that's a waste of your time. Hey, if I'm going to block out time on my calendar and you're not going to show up just because you're nice, that's actually really not that nice. So one of the things that I had to learn is, you know what? I'm here to help you, and I want to make sure that this is going to be invaluable for you. Another quick one, just in the beginning, again, for the front end of it, is to increase contacts, is don't sound threatening to the gatekeeper. We all know about the dreaded gatekeeper, be that husband, be that wife, be the secretary, if you're talking to a business owner. That's the beginning of your call, and how many times are they going to take a message and never give it to the person? That's what they're paid to do half the time. So let's be honest, these are beasts. So if you know it's a business number, not a cell number, try giving it a call before the gatekeeper arrives. Most gatekeepers are not going to be working long hours. They're usually paid a minimum hourly rate, so they clock in usually right on time and clock out right on time as well. They're pretty good about that. So if your gatekeeper you think starts at 8 o'clock and you know it's a business, try giving them a call at 7:45. As long as you're not breaking federal laws as far as that goes with calling hours, give it a shot. Why? Because you might be able to actually contact people on the off hours. So another thing too that's really important with trying to get around the gatekeeper is what I used to do is I used to have a folder of, hey, these are my calls that keep getting blocked by somebody else. And then I would try them at different times. So one day I would try them at 8 a.m. The next day I would try it at 7 p.m. And maybe I'd try them honestly in the middle of the day at noon. Maybe the gatekeeper goes to lunch and forwards the phones. You need to keep your leads organized. One of the biggest things about setting appointments is that you have to try different times, different areas, different ways. Make sure they're separated out in folders. It's tough, I get it. So you need to have a really good CRM or customer records manager. If you don't have a way to organize your leads, please reach out to us. We have quite a few options available here. We're going to get you set up with a nice little system that's going to make your life easier. So that's just increasing contacts. Another thing with appointment setting is that you need to have them remember to show. So this is kind of a multi-level hint. First one, human reaction. You need to start releasing control of the call and let your client have some control of just the appointment setting call. How do you do that? You give them two choices and let them pick one. This has probably happened to you 100 times in your life and you've never noticed, but you need to let the customer pick it because for them they thought, I wanted to set this up. This is something that's good for me. Just human reaction. So what I would always do is I'd say, you know what, I have an appointment available here at 11:15 or 3:10. Which works better for you? That's their only two options, and they will pick one. Instead of sitting there, hey, you know what, I'm available Tuesday from 11 to 4. That doesn't give any guidance to the call. The customer is looking for you to slightly guide the call, but for them to still be in control. Give them two and just say which works better for you. That way they feel that they're in control and they're probably going to just, feel like the call is more important to them. That's a really big one. If you're sitting there setting appointments saying, hey, I'm available at 4 and the client says 4:15, now you're playing a battling game. Not okay. Give them two choices, let them pick one. I usually try to do one in the morning, one at night, and I always try to pick two separate days. So I do like a Tuesday and a Thursday. Another one, have them write it down. This is my personal favorite, absolute personal favorite, and just make my day every time and say, hey, you know what, grab a pen and paper and then shut up and listen. This is a big one because you're going to hear them going through, rustling around on their desk, trying to find that pen and paper. That way you can guarantee they're doing it. If you say grab a pen and paper, they like to say, yep, I got one. Okay, are you sure? Because you want them to write this down. This is going to be important to them. This is going to be something that's also important to you. Why are you going to have them write it down? Because you're going to have them repeat it back. Customers don't like to look stupid, first off. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you write down my name and number and our appointment time, and then I just want you to read it back to me too. Some customers have great memories and can play that game with you. Those people, you may want to double book the appointment spot at that time because they may not be worth your time. But you want them to write it down. You want them to repeat it back. It's a huge thing. It's kind of intimidating your first few times doing that. So if that is not something you do currently, start it. You're going to feel kind of awkward. You're going to feel kind of weird. You might even feel a little mean. But those people who write it down, their show rate is so much higher than those that don't. That's one of the first things I always told my agents when they're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not having people show up. Do you tell them to grab a pen and paper? Did you tell them to write it down and do they repeat it back? Your show rate will increase drastically. Also let them know you are busy. That is a big one too. Agents sit there and say, hey, you know what, my calendar is completely open. What does the client hear? I'm not good at my job and I don't have anybody to meet with. You are busy. That's why you give them two choices. If they're sitting there and they're going to play a game, you know what, don't let them know that you're completely open all the time. I get it, you're here to help, but your time is also valuable. The reason why you are self-employed is because you want that work-life balance. That's why we are sales agents. Let them know your time is busy and that, you know, this is something that's really important. If we need to get it done, I get it, but don't let them know right away that your days are completely open. And this is one of my personal favorites is give them homework. So if they're sitting there saying, yeah, hey, I'm going to be shopping for health insurance, you have them write down your name and number, have them write down the appointment time, but also have them write down, bring your previous insurance so we can compare. Or think about things that are important to you. Give them a homework piece. Make them think about it. Also have them write down their homework and have them repeat that back as well. That was one of my absolute favorite things too. Give them a little piece of homework. So if they show up to the appointment with their homework done, which is shocking, I know, you're going to have a really easy close as far as it goes. So just some quick ones right away before we move on to the next hint here. Give them two choices. Let them pick one. That gives them control back of the call. Have them write it down. Have them repeat it back. Let them know you're busy and give them a piece of homework. If you give them the homework, you'll have a better show rate. Okay, the next hint here is be prepared. First off, be prepared for objections. You should expect objections, especially when you're going to set appointments. That's a big one. People are going to sit there and they're going to give you every objection on the book. Overcome them. biggest thing is, you know what, I get it, this is going to be really great. Let me talk to my wife when it comes to setting an appointment. Great, what's a time that both of you are available? Invite them into the appointment as far as it goes. You know, I have to make a lot of decisions. I just want a quick quote. I get it. Nice thing about me is I work with a lot of different health organizations, a lot of different health insurance carriers. I can compare them for you right away on the phone and we can pick one that works best. Be prepared for objections, stay on your toes. That's going to happen. And also another thing is reschedules are normal. That is part of our game, our reschedules. It's just the way it's going to work. Don't be shocked when those happen. Be professional about it. A lot of agents are not very professional, and that is one of the things that's going to make the client not show to the second appointment. We know that life happens. Guess what? You forgot about little Tina's ballet recital. That's okay. You know, let's reschedule this for another time and date that's going to work best for you. Send a reminder email if you can get the client's email address, or if you have it currently. That's a pretty big one. More and more people are communicating via email. We know this because if you sit there and you send emails, a lot of times they respond. Also, you'd probably rather have people talk to you from email than anybody else. So send a reminder email. That's extremely important. If you can get that out. And then another thing to be prepared for is ask for the appointment. I will have a lot of agents who decide to try to play the game of, I'm going to set everything up, I'm going to let you pick the time, but you have to tell me you're going to commit. You need to make sure to ask them for the appointment. You know, does this time work for you? Is this going to be something you're interested in? Make sure to ask for the appointment at the very end. You want to get their okay. That's also going to give you an okay to kind of keep calling them if they decide not to show up. And one of the last ones here is follow-up. This is kind of one of the most important. So on average, 25% of meetings scheduled are no-shows. So generally speaking, 50% of all these no-shows can be rescheduled, meaning, hey, of everybody who doesn't show up, about 12% you can still save. That's a lot. This is just simply part of the process. Don't get discouraged. Remember, you're not scheduling a qualified sales call, but you're simply changing the context of your initial pitch, right? So you're just trying to make them feel invited and make them feel like this is something that's valuable for them. Be prepared to professionally handle no-shows and focus on getting the prospect to recommit their time. That's extremely important. Those that are also starting with no sales or people who pick up the phone saying they're not interested, what I would do is I would actually, you know, I completely understand, see what's kind of changed if you can feel it out. I'd put them in a folder and follow up with them in 30 days. Why? Because, hey, maybe they just got too many calls and they're overwhelmed. A lot of salespeople will give up after the 8th call. Don't be that salesperson. I mean, if it's something that you don't like to do, you don't like to play the chase game, set it out a few days. You know, wait for everybody else to get exhausted. That is one thing about humans. They said that we are the animals that have the most stamina on the face of the planet. If you haven't taken a look at it, a lot of people in, there were tribes in Africa where they'd actually just sit there and they'd keep running and they'd wait for the gazelle to get tired. And then that's how they would hunt. That is one of the things as well with these no sales. Just have that stamina. Just keep working on it. It'll happen. And then the ominous reschedules. These are my personal least favorite. So this is the person who just keeps rescheduling to reschedule just because they think they're being nice. These are one of those people that you have to tack down. You kind of have to get a little parentish with them and let them know how valuable your time is and make them call you. This is one of the things where if I knew about this rescheduler, I'd just double schedule the appointment, have them call me, and basically make them ask me to help them out. I mean, that's one of the things. You're going to get the people who are here to play a game. You're not here to play a game. You're here to make money, but you're also here to help. That is one of the most important things. You got into this job to help people fish through a very complex thought process and a very complex system, which is health insurance. Let them know you're busy. Let them know how you can help. So those are just some ideas there for your appointment setting. Some quick takeaways there. You know, make sure to give them the 2 times. Make sure to have them write it down. Those are going to be huge things that are going to help increase your show rate. If you are not doing them right now, do them. If they make you feel uncomfortable, hey, guess what? That's great. Do them. It's going to help increase your show rate. So if you have any questions on anything you covered, or if you typed a question in the chat, I will get back to you after if we get through the Motivation Monday and reach out. If you need anything, please make sure to reach out to training@ahcpsales.com. The email address is at the bottom of the screen. Keep in mind, if you do have a question, there's about 15 people else who do. So, and I thought we'd end here with a really good one. An educated consumer is our best customer. So if you're sitting there, you do it right, you give them a lot of value, and you help educate what the point of having an appointment is, they are going to be one of your best customers. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. I really want to thank you for all of your time today. And everybody, have a great Monday and go make some health insurance sales.